Welcome to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. Hey folks, on this episode of the Black Duck Revival Podcast, I'm joined by Eric Thompson of Hardwired Outdoors. Eric is an Oregon-based hunter and a self-described upland game bird addict / aficionado. He was down in Arkansas to go speckle-belly goose hunting for the weekend here at Black Duck Revival, and I was so stoked that he took a little bit of time aside from his small window of relaxation one evening to join me next door at the Black Duck Bungalow and have this really fun and frank conversation. Eric spends all of his free time, or as much of it, I guess, as is humanly possible, trouncing and tromping around the western states and these United States with his dogs, chasing the red-legged devil, as he described it, the chucker. He's also hunting other upland game birds, pheasants, grouse, and the like, and we'll talk more about that. But overall, I'm just fascinated with the positivity that just oozes from this guy. Every time I've hung out with him, and I've hung out with him in Oregon, and I've hung out with him now in Arkansas, and I hope to be able to get up to Oregon sometime and do some hunting with him. But every time I'm around this guy, he just makes you feel better because he's so positive. He's so comfortable in his own skin. That in itself is a reason to be around him. But his level of depth and passion for chasing upland game birds is also something that I found super attractive and was just kind of a thrill and a pleasure to be around. We talk about his hunting, we talk about his familial background, we talk about what he's doing with Hardwired Outdoors and his advocacy for bringing new hunters into the activity and for just broadening the horizons and the narratives around hunting. So please enjoy this interview with Eric Thompson of Hardwired Outdoors. Hey, all right, so I'm back up here in Brinkley, Arkansas. It's still waterfowl season. I am not at the old church as usual. I'm next door at the Black Duck Bungalow because there's people watching a football game at the church right now. And I'm joined by Eric Thompson, a native and resident of Oregon. Eric describes himself as a upland game aficionado and bird dog obsessed human being. And you might have seen him on Instagram under the moniker of Hardwired Outdoors. I guess the first time we met was back in the spring when I was up in Oregon to do a turkey hunt with Jimmy and Lydia from Hunters of Color, and just kind of happened to see a post or something, some notification I got that Eric had liked, and I just clicked on it and saw that he was from Oregon. I saw he was a black upland guy, and I was like, man, let me just look this guy up and see how far he is from where I'm going. It's kind of interesting to make connections when you can with people, and we ended up going out to lunch. You, me, and Lydia, we went out to lunch, and now you and Lydia and Jimmy are homies, and you've ended up here on this, joined us for this hunt that we did in conjunction with Hunters of Color, which I've had a blast at so far. Really cool group of people, and yeah, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk to you. So Eric, welcome to the podcast, and thank you, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's been an exciting last few days and getting to experience waterfowl hunting in Arkansas.
Yeah, we got to see the range of it. The first day we had funky weather. I think the winds were like upwards of 25 miles per hour, like strong enough that it was hard for the birds that were trying to commit to get down into the spread. I mean, we lit birds like 100 yards from the decoys because when they'd cup up to come down, the wind would push them. But and then we went back today the temperature dropped like 35 degrees, almost 40 degrees, but the wind died down a little bit, and we were able to, have a pretty decent hunt. Everybody got birds, and we rode some like freezing rain out for an hour or two, and kind of, if I would fine tune that a little bit more, I would have pulled out probably 15 minutes earlier, because I feel like by the time we left, like people were starting to, they had started to have to endure the weather a little bit, but that's kind of all part of it as well. And then we came back and ate and got birds cleaned, and we're going to eat some gumbo here in a little bit after we do this podcast. But, man, so, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. You mess with waterfowl, you shoot ducks, but, that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of an incidental pursuit for you, and that really your focus and your passion is upland hunting. And so that's, taking place in Oregon. We talked about earlier, like Oregon, close to Idaho. You've even got a move plan to make that kind of hunting more accessible. But, excuse me. I always kind of like to start, at the beginning with people and what brought them into these pursuits and how they're living their life. And you've lived a pretty interesting life, and you've done and are doing things that I think someone like at first glance might not expect you to. And what I think I really appreciate about it is that you seem so comfortable in your skin, and so comfortable being yourself and just presenting yourself, as an or moving in the world with an authentic presentation of yourself. So, I mean, we've been kind of having these like frank conversations this weekend. So, I think probably a lot of folks don't even know that black people live in Oregon, and you don't just live there, you're born and raised there. And I would imagine like very intimately identify with the place. So, but interestingly enough, your mother is from kind of rural Arkansas. We've talked about this on other podcasts, that it seems like all the black folks I meet from the West Coast are 1 or 2 generations removed from Louisiana, Texas, or Arkansas. And so, yeah, man, how did your people get out there to Oregon, and, where did you come from?
Well, I am 1 generation removed from Arkansas and Texas.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, my grandfather packed up his 14 children at the time, I believe it was.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Right when civil rights was getting very prominent here in Arkansas, because there had been trouble in their small town, and he was a migrant. He is actually a sharecropper and did migrant work, and he just figured it was best to move on west and do migrant work out in Arizona, and that's what he did. He loaded them all up on a truck, and not only them, but the older ones with their spouses. So he took his whole family and transplanted them to Arizona. My dad and my mom met in Arizona on a cotton farm, and at that point in time, they moved.
Try not to hit that chord if you can, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
At that point in time, they moved just a little bit north of Luling back into Texas once they got married, then back to Arizona. And my grandfather had done a circuit on the migrant worker route through California. He had finished cotton, moved up through California, picked fruit and berries, and then into southern Oregon, and wound up in the Columbia River Gorge picking apples. And he came back and said, I'm moving to Oregon. I'm taking the rest of the family moving to Oregon. It's the most beautiful place I've ever lived. He moved all of his other kids that had not gotten married up to Hood River. And they picked apples and did migrant work there. Then they started picking in Estacada. They settled into the Willamette Valley. And that's where the story of me comes along. My parents followed them up there. My mom went back to school to become a nurse. My dad got a job in a factory, and I was born, the first child born in Oregon. And everybody else has been born there since for our immediate family.
Gotcha. So what part of what part of Oregon is that you grew up in?
I grew up in the Willamette Valley, and for most folks, they don't know or realize that the Willamette Valley was the introduction point for pheasant. So the Willamette Valley used to be a destination like North Dakota, South Dakota. It was filthy with pheasant. In my childhood, there were pheasants that would set on our fence, pheasants that would be in our backyard. There were fields all around us, and that was really my first introduction to hunting, because that was a hunt that I could follow my brothers on. It wasn't too cold.
Real quick, when you said the introduction point for pheasants, do you mean in North America?
In North America.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where they started, and then they went ahead and introduced them on to other places, but the Willamette Valley was like the first spot that they came to. And so, like I said, that was a bird that I could follow my brothers behind when they went out hunting, and I had great brothers. They were a lot older than me, and they took me everywhere with them. And so I started out following them pheasant hunting, and then as I got a little older and moved into other realms, they would take me waterfowl hunting. So I was, at this point in time in the 70s, there weren't a lot of kids waders, kids things like that. They just didn't produce that stuff. So that meant I was carried. My older brother would carry me out to the blind. My older brother would carry me across the sloughs. They'd get me in the boat, drag me across, and I would sit in that blind, 5, 6 years old, cold, miserable, but happy to be there. And that describes my foray into hunting and how I've always been there. It's because it was something I just knew from birth, well, not birth, but from a small child that I wanted to do. And you talk about, I'm an incidental duck hunter. It wasn't always that way. It's been an evolution. And I started out following them with pheasant. And in the mid 80s, I did a lot of waterfowl hunting all the way up into mid 90s. In 2000s, I wasn't doing as much duck hunting. I was doing more goose hunting. And then I got a different dog. And that dog, I kind of geared more towards upland. And that's when I started that shift and just really started focusing on upland. My family still duck hunts, still goose hunts. I'm right there with them when I get the chance. But most of the time, I spend my time out in the hills chasing chuckers.
All right. And that's something I have zero familiarity with because, upland hunting in the South is quail hunting, and the quail population in Arkansas is sadly pitiful these days. And then I would actually argue like squirrel hunting, I would say, is kind of a form of upland hunting. Yeah, so you're talking about that now you're spending a lot of your times chasing these chuckers. And so, for someone who's from where I live, we've talked about it a little bit, but what's a chucker? You're hunting like chuckers, Hungarian partridge, pheasants, different kinds of grouse. And I think when people think of Oregon, they're thinking of these kind of lush, Pacific coastal, rainforesty type places, but you're doing a lot of this in eastern Oregon, which is a very different environment, much more arid and open. So, yeah, just talk to me like I'm an idiot who doesn't know anything about upland hunting, because I don't.
Well, you just described Oregon. Most of it is arid, high desert. I won't claim it's like any of the other high deserts with all the cactus and everything, but it's arid, and it is rocky and tough and steep, and that's where we find these birds at. Red-legged partridge, chucker, is what they're commonly known here in the U.S. Mid-sized bird, tough as nails. They love to live in the rim rocks. They love to live at the top. You find them in the river breaks on the John Day or the Deschutes River in Oregon or the Columbia River up to the north. The Owahis, the Snake River, is one of my favorite places to hunt. And when you see a lot of my pictures, you'll see me on the Deschutes because it was close to home when I lived in Central Oregon, and it's a little closer right now. But when I get over to the Snake, those vistas are just absolutely stunning. They're not always as arid. They're a little more dry grass, but they're going down to the river, but it's a lot steeper and a lot longer way down. The Wahis, they can be fairly steep, and there's other locations. So the Chuckers in Oregon range in that Central Oregon up through the Columbia Basin down Snake River, and then we down towards Nevada, Idaho, Nevada. So we talked about that earlier. If I want to spend time out away, that's where I go in those general areas. Try not to hotspot anybody here, because in the upland world, and especially in the Chucker hunter world, that's a big no-no, is hotspotting, and people get very serious about it.
Yeah, and you're talking about, like, you don't want to say exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
Which, dude, I get with waterfowling. I was talking to a buddy of mine who was asking about, like, possibly me giving him a pin to take his kid hunting. And we're both on the board, the Arkansas board of backcountry hunters and anglers. And I was like, I'll give you this spot, but, like, you know the rules. Don't tell anybody about this spot. Don't ever go back to it, without checking with me first. And that almost seems a little, out of order, like with a public land hunting organization. But, I mean, these are hard-earned spots, and you're dealing with competition, and it takes a lot of work to find them. For waterfowling, so I imagine it's the same thing with upland.
It's just part of bird hunting etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
So you took me to your spot today. I know where that spot's at.
Yeah.
If, let's say, it was a public spot, beyond that, you took me to your spot. I know where that spot's at. I'm not going back to that spot without you.
Yeah.
Or
shoot me a text and say, "Are you cool?"
Exactly.
And you going is real different than you taking a couple of your buddies with you.
Exactly. And when I take new people hunting, I don't take them to my spots.
Yeah.
We go and explore and find new spots.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one of the things I really like to focus on with new people is, if you're getting into this, I'm not just going to take you out, put you on birds, and we're going to run. I'm going to take you out. And much like your learning experience through hunting, processing, cooking, my teaching experience is, we go out. You don't just drop your dog. You go and you find the areas. Like you guys went out and scouted birds for us last night. I go out and I scout birds. It's not as easy because we have some great distances to cover, but I got a general eye for what habitat we need to find.
Sure.
We're going to get to that habitat. We're going to look around. I'm going to show you what you need to look for. A blessed day is a snow day, and I can look for tracks. They're not always there. It's dry, it's arid. You're not always going to find tracks. Sometimes it's wet. You can still find them. But what I am going to find, I'm going to find scat. I'm going to find feathers. I'm going to find roosts. I'm going to find all these things that tell me birds are in this area. The colors, the age, doing those things, it's going to allow me to say, okay, these birds were here 2-3 days ago. This is really old. I don't know how long this roost has been out. Or we got birds in the area, and the dog's going to be hot. So
when you're talking about a roost, do you mean like you're finding like piles of scat underneath a tree or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're finding piles. If it's a small covey, you'll find it here in the rocks, in the rim rocks, or under a bush, or in one of their little roost piles. And you find a nice 1-2 foot wide area. When you run into absolute gold, you walk up, and there's a couple of spots I know in Oregon where I can walk up there, and it's just a 6x8 swath of nothing but chucker poop.
Isn't that weird that, like, as hunters you can get so excited over shit?
I take pictures of it.
Yeah.
I take pictures of it and post it on Instagram.
I've done that when I was trying to find a black bear a few years ago, man. Just the most success I had that first year was just I found where a bear had been hanging out and eating black gums, and there was like all this poop everywhere, and I was just stoked. I want to backtrack a little bit here because So we're talking. So we named a couple of these species that you're talking about, like Hungarian partridges or pheasants. But a lot of these are introduced species, right? So I mean, tell me which species are introduced, when they were introduced, and then which species are like native to those areas that you're hunting.
The Hungarian partridge and the chucker were both introduced I believe they started the introduction in the late 30s, early 40s. They really got serious about it in the 60s, 70s. And those are what all of our established populations come from here in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Montana, Wyoming. That's pretty much covers the chucker range. Hungarian partridge, I think, kind of moved out into South Dakota, North Dakota also. And
where are those birds from originally?
They're from the Himalayan regions. So Iran was a place we got a lot from.
Okay.
And
you were telling me about that, like the Shah of Iran?
And that's just running theory is because we were good buddies with the Shah of Iran at that time, during that time period from the 30s through the 70s. We had great access to him, and it was probably like some kind of good gift exchange on his part.
Do the Himalayas, they run all the way to Iran? I associate that with like Nepal.
And Pakistan, Afghanistan.
Sure, yeah.
All the stands kind of touch that area.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where we get those birds from. And and then we have our pheasants. And pheasants range all the way. They're Indo-European bird. So they range from Asia. In the form that we know them, they range from Asia all the way to Hungary, I believe. Okay. And maybe a little further. But that's a bird that you actually find in Europe that belongs there, because Europe and Asia are actually just one big giant continent.
Yeah.
And those are the introduced species that I hunt. And then grouse, I don't hunt it as religiously as they do in the Midwest, but we do have nice populations, and I will hunt them if I'm in the area. We have good grouse populations, good rough grouse populations, and in some areas they overlap with chucker. So chuckers, like we were talking about, they love the cheatgrass. They love that high arid spaces where you're looking for, depending on time of year and forage, that plays a important part of what you find when you're looking for chuckers. Because on a wet year like this year, those birds can be further back. You can get them way back from the river. On a dry year, you're going to be closer to the rivers, trying to get a hold of those birds, finding springs, things like that.
Because they've got to stay in some sort of proximity to water.
They have to stay in some sort of proximity to water, but it doesn't have to be a whole bunch. So if you can find a nice little spring coming out of a hillside, you can start locating birds around there in a far canyon back away from the river.
What was in those areas before they introduced those birds, 75 years ago?
I don't know.
There was not, is there not another upland bird there now?
We have sage grouse, but not the numbers that it's a permitted hunt.
Okay.
And it's not the great numbers like going to somewhere like South Dakota, North Dakota that have more than we do, and you don't have to permit them out. I've never hunted them in Oregon, so I just I've found them, and I know where they're at, but I'd never take the opportunity to hunt them there.
Okay. I want to backtrack with you real quick, and I love this because you're going so deep and. You're going so deep into what you're passionate about, but I'd like to know what you said. You got a different dog, and that changed the way you were hunting and what you were pursuing. So I know, like, now you're hunting drothers, right?
I hunt German wire-haired and wire-haired pointing griffons.
Okay, so
my next dog's gonna be a droth,
and a drother is like a specialized version of a German wire-haired, right?
Yeah.
I'm using shorthand
in layman terms. Yeah.
Yes. And then you said griffons. What was the dog that like changed what you were doing and what you were pursuing?
It was actually the Griffon that changed what I was doing, because I came from a big waterfowl family where everybody owned a lab.
Okay, so when you were growing up, it was labs. It wasn't golden retrievers anymore.
Nope.
Okay.
I got my first golden retriever when I was in high school because everybody else owned labs, but I wasn't super serious about training this dog. So this is my evolution of dog training. I got a golden retriever. Me and this dog went out, shot ducks. She went and retrieved them. Mm-hmm. She wasn't fancy. There was no hand signals. There was no calls. There was no whistles. It was just her getting ducks on the river. Everybody else hunted labs. I refused to hunt labs because that's just my personality. I guess I'm a little contrary in certain things. So I got a golden retriever. Fast forward, married, have children, don't have a wife anymore, but still have children, and I get a dog.
As you do, yeah.
And I got this malnutrition-looking little German short hair that he was a once-in-a-lifetime dog, because I had still no idea what I was doing with dogs. I hadn't even started to learn yet. But I dropped this dog out of the box at 6 months old, and he pointed like a champ, retrieved, and was hard as nails. You couldn't break this dog. He absolutely just loved to hunt. And he loved my girls, so that was good. And the other funny thing was, everybody's hunting labs. I'm hunting the German Shorthair, which my daughters, who were 5 and 6 at the time, had named Baby. So not only am I getting razzed for hunting a German Shorthair, I'm getting razzed for hunting a dog named Baby. And we get this.
Wait, were people using labs for upland stuff?
No, we're hunting waterfowl at this time. So we're hardcore waterfowl hunting. We're hunting the rivers. We're hunting ponds. I'm still in the Willamette Valley at this time and just hunting nothing but waterfowl pretty much, because all the upland are gone. And we'd get over to Maupin every once in a while, hunt some pheasants. They still had a good population then, and quail and a little bit of chucker. But I'm hunting ducks and geese with this German Shorthair. He's got his little neoprene vest for when it's cold. Dog absolutely hated the water, but he was so bird motivated he'd break ice to get a duck. And so that was just my duck dog. I had a German Shorthair. That was my duck dog. He was awesome. Did blind retrieves. Just like I said, he was the bulletproof dog, the dog, that once in a lifetime dog that you get. Fast forward, he's 11 years old and diagnosed with cancer. And I, do what you got to do with your dogs, because you owe it to them to take care of them when it's that time. And I had been looking, and I was like, I think I'm going to start trying to do some more upland hunting. And I'd been looking at different breeds. Didn't know if I wanted another short hair right at that point. Wound up with this little fuzzy dog. On Father's Day, my daughter went and picked him up for me out of Idaho. We were over actually on the Snake River fishing on our annual family fishing trip, where we go over and catch a bunch of catfish and bass and bluegill for fish fries. And she gives me this little puppy, and I got more serious into it, started reading books, and got very into training. I hadn't joined any other organizations yet, but I was still training him for upland. And
this dog's a Griffon?
This is the Griffon. He's still with me. He's going to be 10 here in the fall.
Describe what a Griffon looks like.
Well, I can describe what my Griffon looks like and tell you with all honesty, it's not the coat you want. He's got a big fuzzy head. He's got kind of a blown undercoat and slightly harsh outer coat, which is not what they should have. They should have a shorter, harsher coat and not be fuzzy in the legs and not have a giant fuzzy head that collects burrs. So when you see a picture of him, you'll see that, I want to say, and I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this, that show face that's nice and fuzzy that everybody wants to look at, and it's fun and cute. But if you look at my dog that is primarily featured in my Instagram page now, you'll notice that she has a smoother face, a smoother coat, and the difference is taking her in a river bottom with cockle burrs is a 2-minute wipe down because they literally don't stick to her. I just have to knock them off with my hand. Taking him into a river bottom with cockleburs, that's 45 minutes of me combing cockleburs out of this dog. He's a great dog. Love him to death. Bad coat. And I didn't know any better at the time, but I know better now.
So, man, there's so many things I want to ask you about, but I'll tell you what. I'm just going to freeze frame. We're going to come back to dogs and upland hunting, but we've talked about this a little bit. But like you used to ride bulls, you've done a lot of stuff that it seems like. I mean, what you're pursuing now, as far as like hunting, the style you do it, right? Where you live, riding bulls, just doing these things. I mean, you've got to be like one of the only brown people that you're regularly seeing in these spaces. And so, I think that these conversations come up a lot, like especially in the outdoor space or the hunting space, because, people of color are just underrepresented in the media of it. But, it's just kind of weird sometimes to be an outsider or just physically be recognized as being different somehow. And so I kind of wonder, we all find our own ways to deal with that. Some people become like, or some folks are just like gregarious, and that's kind of the way they navigate it. Some people become hostile. Some people become closed off. There's all these different ways to navigate being different in a space, right? I have suspicions about how you navigate these spaces, but I'd be interested to know like how you've done that growing up, and how you think. I mean, there's got to be some real resiliency built in there that probably contributes to all sorts of other things in your life. And I would assume how you hunt and like what you want to hunt and what you like about that.
I was actually very fortunate. Not only did I have great brothers that took me everywhere, I had great uncles. So I had a very inspired childhood.
Yeah, you had like a community, a related community with you.
Yes, and that's oftentimes people will hear me say when I'm out upland hunting, I really try to encourage upland hunting. I really try to encourage people of color to upland hunt, because one of my favorite, when it happens, it'll be one of my favorite things is to pull up next to somebody who looks like me out hunting and be like, hey, how you doing?
Do you mean when that happens, like when you encounter it, or that one day you hope to encounter it?
One day I hope to encounter it.
Yeah. Because
unless I'm taking them, and generally they're related to me, I don't see people who look like me out upland hunting in the spaces that I hunt. I spent 10 days crossing Montana, and I think I told you I saw a person that looked like me in Glasgow, Montana, go into it was the post office, not the bank. And we waved at each other.
You give them that all. So you didn't even do a head nod, man.
No,
you straight up waved.
We straight up waved at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, that was the person I saw that whole 10 days. And I crossed 3 states and hunted. I spent a lot of time in the field. It doesn't happen. And I'm waiting for that to happen. And if I have to make it happen by getting somebody out there and getting them going, that's what I want to do.
Or just, man, like platforming yourself and other people seeing it and thinking it's cool and wanting to do it, And I mean, I would definitely say that your enthusiasm for it is super infectious and attractive, Now, if you went to, say, like Georgia or something, there's a deep, deep, deep history of hundreds of years of black people being involved in bird dog training and upland hunting. It kind of like, it looks different, and the way they do it's different, and we were talking about that this weekend as well. But yeah, just like the places where you're at. I mean, you're in places where there's like not a lot of black people, right?
That's very true.
Like when I was in Montana, this this summer. I was up there for like this Sitka event, and like the black people there were me and the dudes from 24/7 Hunt that were up there for the Sitka event too. And I think those were the black people I saw. You know, and I even ran into this deal where like I didn't have any hair grease, and I was like in Bozeman trying to figure out. Like I called Renard up and I was like, "Man, you got any hair grease?" He was like, "No, man, you got to go get some Vaseline." But anyway, it's just kind of worth noting. But like even before that, like you were talking about like riding bulls. You're the second person on this podcast that was a bull rider.
So living my life, what I was getting to with having those great role models out there is these were the men who took me to places that helped me develop my security in who I am. And wherever I go, I'm still secure in who I am because they were not afraid to take me into these places. So you talk about me being steeped in Oregon. I am very steeped in Oregon. I'm very steeped in Oregon history. I've been to most places in Oregon, and I've walked a lot of Oregon. Not just driving through. I've hunted and walked, be it deer, elk, upland bird, waterfowl. I've spent a lot of time in outdoor Oregon. So that helped me become comfortable. And just, I enjoy being around people. I enjoy being around people who love doing the things that I like to do. I don't like being around people who don't like to do the things that I like to do or have something negative to say. Most of the people I surround myself are positive interaction people that you just want to deal with on a daily basis. When I get that person, so one of my favorite stories is I started Hardwired Outdoors, and I had multiple people that I talked to about it, and I had friends that were like, "Hey, you know what? This is a great idea. We really enjoy seeing you hunt your dogs. This is all good. We enjoy participating as a family because it's not just me, as my brother and my nephews." But I had this one person that says, "You know, the outdoor industry is so hard to break into. I wouldn't do it. It's not something you should do." You know what I did with that person?
Blocked him.
I never talk to that person again. Yeah. I mean, if I see him on the street, I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" But at this point in time, I have no desire to reach out to that person. And that's how I live my life. I don't need negativity because I have so many positive people around me. So I can cut you quick. I can cut you loose quick.
Man, you know, there's a lot to what you just said. I'd say specifically the thing I keyed in on is, you know, you talking about having these role models and these male role models in your family that took you places and instilled confidence in you. You know, I'm by their example, you know, how they lived their life. 'Cause man, I mean, you're talking about your grandfather moving like all his people up to this place. Like that kind of took some cojones, you know, and a mindset. And I'm sure that mindset percolates itself down through his children. And as they have children, you know, that like, we can make our own way and we can do what we want to do, you know? But man, I keep asking you about this, man. Tell me about riding these bulls.
Oh, that was the dalliances of a young man, you know? I wanted to do it. People said, once again, that's not something you can do. And like getting into hunting, if you don't have an ingress into these things, you have to learn it on your own. So I made friends. I made friends with people who did this.
Yeah.
And they took me. They started me. They showed me how to do it. And it was a very fun 2 years of my life that I just bummed around and rode around on bulls and
You're not a horse guy.
I am not a horse guy.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that. But and you know, I didn't know this until I was up there this spring that Oregon is like deep, heavy rodeo culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would never and look, this is just ignorance, but like I think before this I thought of Oregon as, like I said, these like big wet forests and like lumberjacks.
Well, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. Where I grew up was very agricultural. Agriculture was the largest industry, was the largest employer for a very long time, when it was more manual. So there was a lot of agriculture, but not only was there a lot of agriculture, there was a lot of logging. So most of my friends at some point had worked in a mill before it really started to shut down. All their parents had worked in mills, and it was just part of the culture. So you were not far off. But now, when you visited, we're more technology based, and probably agriculture than the state, I think, is how it runs for employment here in that state.
And what kind of agriculture?
Well, when I was young and pheasant hunting was good, we had fence rows and seed grains. So that was very beneficial to pheasants and quail and everybody else down there in the valley. Then we started to switch more towards grass seed. We are now the grass seed capital.
Yeah, that's what was there when I was. That's what I saw when I was there. Yeah,
and we farm all the way to the fence, and we have nothing left for habitat for these upland birds. That's why we don't have good populations anymore. And now there's a lot of filberts being put in, so that even reduces habitat even more.
Filbert is a hazelnut.
For the rest of the world, it's a hazelnut.
And I mean, you do have a ton of turkeys, and that's an introduced species, and that's what I was up there chasing. And man, people hate them. They treat them like rats. Like, oh, you want to come and shoot these turkeys? Come and shoot them.
Yeah. So every time people talk about turkeys, I'm like, yeah, just imagine my FedEx driver trying to chase them out of my neighbor's driveway. I can see it from my bedroom window, and I'll hear him honking at them, and the turkeys are just in the middle of the driveway and won't get out of the driveway, and he's out there chasing them, doing all kinds of stuff. So yeah, around my house there's quite a few turkeys, and everywhere else, as soon as you get just a little bit out of town, and not even out of town, I have lots of town turkey pictures. So yeah, we got a lot of turkeys.
Yeah, I mean, actually I don't even want to talk about that anymore because I don't want anybody going there. Don't go there. Go there and chucker hunt. Don't go there and turkey hunt. Man, so you mentioned Hardwired Outdoors. Tell me a little bit about that if you would. And then, like, what's your intention with it? If you could snap your fingers and magically have it be everything you dreamed of, what would it be?
Well, Hardwired Outdoors, like I said, it's not just me. It's my brother, my oldest brother, Bob, my nephew Kyle, my nephew Chris, and my friend for as long as I can pretty much remember, Ron. They supported my dream, and my dream is to get a platform for, once again, people that look like us, to normalize hunting, normalize fishing, normalize just being in the outdoors, because not all of my content is about me, and not all about full-on hunting all the time. We're wanting people just to get into the outdoors. And if I could snap my fingers and have it be exactly what I wanted, I would have a platform where I could introduce people, do it pretty much as a full-time job, introducing people to the outdoors in a more public setting. So get some of that, not only sponsorship, but screen time that everybody else has been getting for years. All the people that I watched on those hunting shows, all those people that I watched on those fishing shows growing up, where, once again, nobody looked like me. I want to be out there and not only provide myself, but people who are learning to do these things, people who are interested in these things, out there actually doing it. So we can be an inspiration for some kid sitting, be it in a small town in the middle of Georgia or in a city like LA, who's like, wow, look at them. I would really like to try that. And morph it out to encompass some kind of program to allow them to have those resources to get out and find whatever their passion is.
Are your daughters, I'm sure you raised them hunting. Are they continuing that, or are they that kind of dad's thing?
My oldest daughter, she's busy with her family. Mm-hmm. So she isn't as gung-ho anymore. Her oldest son, though, I am trying to plan a quail hunting trip down to Arizona because they live in Vegas. So I want to take him and go because he is absolutely, at this point, obsessed with hunting. I send him subscriptions to hunting magazines, all kinds of stuff. It's not an influence from me, but he wants to learn how to fish. He wants to learn how to hunt. And it's just that they're a little too far away for him to do it with me all the time. But I want to make those opportunities available to him. So like one of the things I'm going to buy him for his birthday is a fishing trip. Because I can't do it, but I can get somebody there to take care of it for him and take him and his dad out. My youngest daughter, surprisingly, the thing that I would want them to do most is go bird hunting with me. Neither one of them are interested in bird hunting. But my youngest daughter still goes big game hunting with me. So whenever we draw deer tags, she goes.
Yeah, and so we're talking a lot because you're so passionate about upland hunting. But like you guys, like every year you're going elk hunting. You're chasing muleys. Are you chasing muleys or different kind of deer?
We do muleys. We do whitetail.
Where are you hunting whitetail at?
Well, my two nephews. I don't know if Kyle got one this year, but Dustin and Chris, they got whitetail in Wisconsin here just a few months back on the rifle season, and they did elk in New Mexico, which I missed out on that trip because I was in Montana. So they were on elk hunting in New Mexico and I was hunting in Montana. So I didn't get to go on that trip. But we try to get somewhere each year. 2 years ago, and when we do get really good tags, everybody drops everything and we just make it into a family hunt. So my nephew drew Utah, a really good unit in Utah, and we dropped everything and just made that a hunt about him, and he got a really nice bull.
And so what? He's got the tag, but you guys are all going out together. You're making camp together, and then you help him pack it out?
Yep. Help him scout, do all that stuff. They went to him and my buddy, Ron. They got Northern Arizona tags that same year. Got really nice bull. And our next big one is probably one of us should draw in Wyoming in a good unit. So if we do that, if any of us draw that, we'll drop and do that. But outside of that, we always apply in Oregon for elk. They apply for deer. I don't really do deer in Oregon anymore. But I still apply for elk with them because that's the family hunt where even if you don't hunt, you can still come over to hunting camp. And that is a big part of my family tradition of hunting. So prior to our tag draw system where you could just buy over the counter, it was not about how many people we could get over there to kill deer during deer season. It was our family vacation. So at one point in time, we had 13 tags in camp, but we had 120 some people because my family would come over and we would sit down and have our big giant campfires and all the kids playing in the dirt, horses, everything else you could imagine. And just, it was a family get together. Y'all
have got that many people over there in Oregon? Or are you pulling them from all over?
No, that's just working. I got a huge family, man. My mom had 14 kids. My dad had 16 kids in their family. So then you multiply that out. I got a giant family.
That's why there's black people in Oregon, because of your family. Good Lord, man. 100 and something people, really.
Yeah.
So you made it like that was, did y'all do that like in lieu of a family reunion?
I would assume so, because we weren't really at that point in time, it wasn't like we were doing giant family reunions where we were going back to Arkansas or Texas or anything like that. But we all wanted to get together. And when you don't have a large community of black people in an area, you kind of stick together. So your family stuck together. You knew everybody. And there weren't a lot of black people in Oregon at that time. More people have moved in over the years. But there was a point in time where pretty much everybody I knew
that was black was related to you?
Was related to me or had come out of the same cotton camps as my parents came out of, my grandparents, and migrated to Oregon. That's how they all knew each other.
Man, that's some really wild stuff. Do you this is a side note, do you kind of consider you and your people like we're the originators and everybody else is Johnny come latelys?
No, because there were a few there. There were a few people there, and we happened to get to know them too.
Yeah.
But my family's been there a long time, so I wouldn't call us the originators, but we had a lot of people there.
Yeah, you're old school for sure. I'm trying to decide what I want to ask you. Man, what okay, so let's do this. Let's circle back because we're kind of doing like the history. We're talking about where ethos comes from. We're talking about familial connections and stuff. Let's go back into a little bit more of the down and dirty, nerdy stuff about hunting, right? So, and this is something I love about you is that like, and you're talking about like your whole family. It sounds like you get it. Like you don't. I mean, like you get after it. Like you're spending September through February, like living in your truck, moving. You're going from state to state, like really enthusiastically pursuing this. So, like, what is a perfect? It's what is the what's like just the height of upland hunting season? Like, what time period is that?
Oh, that is so funny because there really isn't one. It's all weather dependent.
Okay.
Yeah. I tell stories about being in Montana when it's 70 degrees, 80 degrees. Dogs are about dying. It's hot. We're only hunting in the morning. And then 2 feet of snow rolls in. And everything changes. And that was in September. October, 16 degrees, 15 inches of snow. 2 more feet fell. That's mid-October. This year I'm there in November. It's nice, 45 degrees, 50 degrees, beautiful hunts. It was great. In Oregon, it can be hot. And hot is not good for, especially with my dogs. They just don't really like the hot. So I try to keep, if I'm going to do a 70-degree day, I'm doing half a day. I'm trying to keep them cool. I would prefer a nice 30-degree day. That would be great. Little snow on the ground, that's even better. That's a day that me and the dogs both can just move.
And is that because like you're seeing tracks or because that snow is holding scent or why?
Snow makes it easier to see the tracks, so I know
Sure.
what's going on. I love that. But if there's no snow, just having that cool is such a plus for me. And running Harrier dogs, I guess. I don't run. I know people running short hairs and pointers and stuff, they can run their dogs a little hotter than me, but I just don't have the ability to do that because I don't want to do that to my dogs. Yeah. And I carry a lot of water because once again, we're in arid conditions. So if it's hot, I got to carry more water.
And you're hoofing all of this. You're just like, you're walking with these dogs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's an average distance wise? What's an average amount of miles? Really?
Yep. 10 miles is nothing. Half a day is 5 miles.
And so you referenced a couple things, and it made me realize how little I know about this. I mean, I know enough just from cartoons and stuff that you have like these pointing dogs, but are your dogs? So I guess when we're talking about pointing, we're talking about that dog is like keen and pointing with its body, telling you there's birds over and that stuff to help you prepare to get ready for it. And then are you flushing it? Do you have a dog to flush it to get those birds to jump out so you can shoot them, and then do you have another dog to retrieve it, or do you have like this one badass dog that does all of it?
Of course, I have the one badass dog that does all of it. I am into versatile dogs.
And that's a term.
That is a term. Like we talk about the Southern culture. They have pointers. They want their pointers to point. That's what they want them to do. And if you get into a good hunt down there, you have pointers, you have flushers, you have retrievers. So you have pointers, you have cocker spaniels, and you have labs out there in the field. And it's just this amazing orchestra. I don't have that. I don't have the bandwidth to carry all these dogs and walk all these miles. So I have a versatile dog. I have a dog that goes out and points. And in my perfect world, my dog goes out, catches that scent cone, stops on a dime. Allows me to get up, flush those birds. When the birds flush, I get a good shot. So they're good to, from flush, shot, or flush, bird to wing, shot, fall. And they're watching all this time, marking that bird. And I release them to go get that bird. That's the perfect world. Get it sometimes? Sometimes you don't. I know guys who are absolutely fanatical about it. I know guys who have dogs that really probably need a lot more work. I kind of find myself in the in-between because of the fact that not every situation is perfect. And I give my dogs some leeway because they need to know how to manage birds outside of a testing situation. And I want them to manage birds because they're working at a distance. So some guys are running their dogs closer. My dogs are running out roughly around 200-300 yards. Not as far as a pointer or setter, but way far for a Griffon. In most circumstances, there's a lot of Griffons that still run that far.
Are you running collars on these dogs, or are you just all visually seeing where the dog's at?
If I wasn't running collars, I would know where my dog's at because I'm in a brown landscape with brown dogs. And one of my favorite things to do on Instagram is to post a picture and be like, there's a dog in this picture.
Yeah.
Because there's just brown. And you'll find, if you find the dog, she's on point, rock solid.
It's like seeing when we drive by and we see a speck sitting out in soybean stubble, and it's like, man, you got to really look to see them sometimes, and then you get a snow goose out there, and then everything pops.
Yeah. So yeah, GPS collars are an absolute godsend for knowing where my dogs are at, and I love it. I have mine paired with my watch, so I'm
just running. Are you running Garmin's?
Yeah. I'm running Garmin's. I'm hustling across the field. I know where my dogs are at. My dog goes on point. I know my dog 206 yards up the hill. And boom, off I go.
Yeah, I've seen that with hunting coons here in Arkansas. Let me ask you, and this is all for selfish reasons. With these like introduced but established populations, you're still working within hunting season, right? It's not like a year-long pursuit, is it?
Oh no, they're absolute hunting seasons.
When's hunting season for?
This one, our chucker season will end in February, or at the end of January. So chuckers, quail, they all end at the end of January. Grouse usually starts sometime in September. August, sorry. Yeah, usually starts sometime in August, which if I was better, I would start hunting grouse in August, but I just tend to not do it. Then you have quail, usually kicks up late September, early October, I remember. Chucker, first week of October, that's when that starts. And so you can hunt those all the way until February. Pheasant starts in October, and you can go till the end of December, I believe.
So then you've got a lull between like February and the end of the summer.
Yeah, kind of. So this year, my brother's got a new puppy, so I don't have a lull.
You'll be training.
I'll be training his puppy, getting her dialed in, and working with another dog that I picked up because I collect dogs sometimes, and he is showing he is very interested in hunting. So we're gonna take a 2-year-old and train him up to hunt, get him out in the field.
What is your, we all, just like culturally and personally, we all develop these like ethoses and like our, within the bounds of the law, our ideas about what's ethical for hunting, right? So what is, like, on your purity scale, or like what you consider ethical or really hunting or whatever, how do you see, I mean, because what you're talking about is most of what you're doing is you're going out there and like you're finding wild birds,
Yeah.
right? What about, because I know with upland hunting, it's also a thing to like have released birds and then people go out with that. So is that something you participate in? And if not, or if so, like, how do you feel about that? And where are your lines with that stuff?
I absolutely participate in it. I do not see that as unethical because it's a great entry point for people. It's like if you take a kid fishing and you take them fly fishing on a small creek in Montana where every fish can see you for a mile and a half, you're crawling on your belly to get up there. How much enjoyment is a 5-year-old going to get out of that?
Yeah. I mean, you want to take them brim fishing with a cork and a cricket and let them be successful.
Exactly. You want to build that drive, that desire to do that again because you're making your own fishing partner, your own hunting partner, whatever it is. And when you expose new people to these scenarios where they can be successful, I think that's beneficial. It's not the end all. I want you to go out. I want you to be successful. But I'm also going to explain this is not the norm. If you like this, then we'll start going for some wild birds. I'm not going to take you over on the snake and walk you up out of the bottom. I'm going to take you somewhere nice and kind of flat, see if we can get you some birds. But I also use it as a reward system. At the end of every year, I take my dogs out on what's going to be a successful hunt. They are going to find birds. They're going to bring me back birds. They're going to get birds in their mouth. They're going to be happy dogs. And I usually do it sometime right before the preserve season ends. Take them out, shoot 5 pheasants over them, let them be successful, let them be happy, let them end their year on a positive note. So my ethos is I think it's a good thing.
Do you think that it's, do you get more satisfaction out of hunting wild birds on public land?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I call it my flex that my dogs can go out and I can drop them in pretty much any situation and pull up birds. And half of it's them, half of it's me because we are a team. So you have some people who they run their dogs. They go to an area, they drop their dogs off. Well, there was no birds here. But what did you do to help make that dog successful? Did you look at the habitat before you drop that? As we talked about before, I'm really big in the habitat. You look at that habitat before you drop that dog on the ground. There's nothing wrong with your dog. What did you do to make that dog successful? One of my favorites is when I did the one with Lydia and Jimmy. The spot that we wanted to go, so this public land, wild bird hunt, these guys had gotten their experience on preserve hunt, but they wanted to see a wild bird hunt. Spot we wanted to go, somebody was already there. Another piece of etiquette. You don't walk over somebody else. It's happened to me too many times. I don't walk over people. I'm like, hey, so somebody's already here, but on my way in, I saw a spot that I think looked really good. And we went back, put the dogs on the ground, put up a couple of different coveys. Just enough for these guys to get an experience because they're kind of tired by the end of it, but they got to see wild birds. They got to see wild bird habitat. They got to see how I track these birds to put my dog in the right spot.
Are you Google scouting beforehand?
I love e-scouting. How do you think I hunt Montana? I e-scout the heck out of places.
And then you kind of narrow it down, then you take that transferable knowledge and get in there and put boots on the ground and figure it out.
That's how I found chuckers in Montana this year. Because I knew where they should be. I e-scouted it. First place I went to, I was like, not as good as it looked. Second place I went to, birds.
Yeah. Oh, shoot, man. I got to put some tape underneath this rug. I keep sliding it around. Well, man, dude, I've enjoyed the hell out of having you here, man. You're like legit, man. You got a great personality. You're fun to be around. And I absolutely think that what you're talking about as far as like your mission statement for Hardwired Outdoors is starting to resonate with people. And like we're kind of talking about this stuff very pointedly and frankly, but I do feel like you kind of have a similar idea about it that I do. That is, you just present yourself as who you are, and you allow that to resonate with other people. You're not necessarily on a soapbox talking about, like Black Bird Hunters Unite, but you're just allowing yourself to create an orbit.
And that's what I really try to do. I try to project myself as an average bird hunter, because sometimes I get one bird, sometimes I get 4 birds, sometimes I get 8 birds. But I'm not about stacking piles. I'm about good dog work. I'm about getting people interested in getting out there and do what I do. And I just have a little asterisk, an extra special spot to get people who look like me to get out there. But not everybody that I interact with looks like me, and I'm still willing to get out there and help. And you asked earlier about me living my life and portraying myself the way I do. I want to be that honest person, because I don't have time to remember what fake thing I might have done to impress somebody. So if I'm me, I can always just be me.
Yeah, man, that's a good way to live life, man. I mean, we kind of dress it up a lot of times, talking about authenticity and all this other stuff, but it's just like, just be who you are, just like what your mom would tell you or your grandma would tell you. Like, it's easier to remember the truth than it is a lie, and I do think that a lot of people are so insecure or just don't like themselves enough that they can't do that. They can't just be who they are. Because we are all these like strange conglomerations of things, and yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing. The whole reason I was asking about that is because I'm coming up to Oregon in the spring to turkey hunt. And I was like, man, I got to try and make something happen. But I guess I might have to make it happen. So, man, maybe in August, because when it's waterfowling, I got to be around here. But or maybe September or something. Maybe I can make a trip up there, man. I'd love to go out there and see your dogs work. Jimmy spoke very, very highly about your dogs working. So I'll give you that pat on the back, man. It says it, man. Dude's out here talking good about you. But, man, so I always ask folks, if people want to get a hold of you or consume your content, what's the best way to do that?
Best way to get me is on IG. I spend most of my time, provide most of my content for Instagram, and our store can be reached at hardwired.com.
All right, man. Well, and do yourselves a favor. Take a look at that IG account, and you'll see that it is actual fact that people look like their dogs. They both have the same kind of beard, the same mustaches, and they both look super happy when they've got birds.
And I do carry them around in my mouth sometimes.
All right. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Black Duck Revival podcast. I so appreciate you spending the last hour or so with me. If you like this podcast and you want other people to know about it, if you want it to grow and hopefully do bigger and better things, please take a minute to subscribe on whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast on. Leave a 5-star review. And if you take a few moments to leave a brief written review, that helps tremendously as well. As always, this podcast is produced by me, Jonathan Wilkins, and Brian Sachs. You can keep up with what I'm doing and follow all things Black Duck Revival by going to blackduckrevival.com or by following me on social media at Black Duck Revival. We're getting to the very end of waterfowl season here in Arkansas, and very soon I'll be switching gears to guiding these backwater bayou catfish trips. I'd love to have you join me on one. If you're interested, you can get a hold of me at either one of those platforms that I previously mentioned. Also, look for early spring sometime in March. We'll be announcing the limited number of waterfowl hunt dates for the 2022-2023 2023 season, as well as a few surprises and new opportunities to come and learn how to make the most of your harvest. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Until then.